Good evening and welcome to the 5280 podcast. I'm taking over the reins tonight. Glenn Hauser, joined by Cam Parker and Gage Madrid. Mundungus Creevy is homesick, and he said, I've never done a show from the bathroom, and I'm not going to start tonight. So hopefully he jumps
I
in the
almost
comment
also
section.
did the show from the bathroom because literally right when I got up to walk into the office, my nose started just gushing blood, bro. So we almost had two people down, and I realized something on accident. We're streaming this on Broncos Syndicate. I went to stream it to my Twitter, and I accidentally clicked Broncos Syndicate as well. So we're on there too.
There you go. There you go. We hear about Gage's coke addiction on two different channels, which is great. So,
full disclosure, I'm addicted to this kind of coke, not the
that's
other.
what I was talking about. I don't know. I don't
and now we are no longer streaming on Broncos Syndicate.
We're not streaming on anything. We're streaming on the DEA site. Yeah, we got.
Yeah.
How are you fellas doing tonight?
Doing good. Doing good. Obviously, just had a root canal done today. I should say part one of a root canal done, and then part two is in the end of March. But other than that, I am doing good. We are actually just less than a week away from NFL free agency. So yeah, we're gonna get some more NFL news, if you will, this week.
It snuck up on me quick, man.
Yeah.
It feels like this offseason is flying by. We normally have like a month because the Broncos are eliminated from the playoffs so soon, and because they made it all the way to the AFC Championship game, this offseason has just been on speed mode. So we're here, man. We're ready to discuss free agency. We're going to probably tap into the draft a little bit tonight just because the combine just happened and there are going to be some big storylines to cover. And for everybody who's on Broncos Syndicate, we're going to have some other videos coming out tonight as well on some similar topics, but we're definitely going to touch on a lot of juicy stuff here on the 5280 podcast this evening.
What about you, Glenn? What's new with you?
I'm finally back on the show. I mean, I decided to show up this week, I was on IR for a little bit, but doing well. But I mean, why don't we, we've been talking about some of the transactions that have happened. Why don't we start off with some of the big names that were tagged today, including one that I think all three of us were personally hoping would be bypassed by the New York Jets, and that's Breece Hall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Breece Hall was, I think, everybody's top target at the running back position. I think that he's somebody that can be a dynamic difference maker, both in the receiving game and the run game. He complements RJ Harvey the best, but the New York Jets recognize the value that he brought to their football team, and they decided, no, we just can't move on from this guy. We have to keep him. He's pretty much the only resemblance of offense that we have right now. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, but there are still a lot of really good running backs available for the Broncos, and I strongly believe they're going to come away with one, if not more of them, throughout free agency and the draft.
Hold that thought, because I want to go over the other three big names that one, not surprised that George Pickens is being retained by the Cowboys. I'm not entirely sure where they're getting the money for this. I mean, between Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and Pickens, they account for a massive amount of the cap there, unless there was some restructuring that I haven't heard about yet. And then the Falcons, Kyle Pitts is going back to them. And he's somebody that came alive towards the end of the season. I don't know. I don't think they were going to tag him up until really those last 5 weeks when he not only came alive, he became a second-team All-Pro in the NFL as a result of his play just in those remaining weeks of the season.
And I do find that a little bit strange because his best production this season came with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, and the Falcons are cutting Kirk Cousins. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but you never know. Maybe he'll develop some chemistry with Michael Penix, or the Falcons will find somebody else to start at quarterback for them. I find that interesting, but I do feel like Kyle Pitts deserves it after what he did at the back half of the season.
And truthfully, that's one of the reasons why I was not interested in Kyle Pitts in this offseason, just because I felt like it was one where his best suit, frankly, is just staying put. And it's one of the reasons why I think that, like, was it smart to kind of look at some of these players like a Drake London or even the pipe dream of a Bijan Robinson? It's like, was it irresponsible, responsible to look at? I don't think it's wrong either way, but I think given the fact that Stefanski was hired there and him being such an offensive genius of a coach, if you will, it kind of became like, okay, like it seemed like a match at that point, given the fact of the resurgence that Kyle Pitts had, and then Stefanski comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed pretty obvious that it was like, okay, just it didn't seem wrong or right, if you will, to just say like, oh, this Kyle Pitts is an option for the Broncos in my point of view.
Right.
Well, just think about what Stefanski was able to do with Harold Fannin last year. They might need to find a David Njoku to Kyle Pitts' Harold Fannin, but I do think that could be a potential thing we see there is Kyle Pitts filling that Harold Fannin type role. And, I'm hoping David Njoku is available for the Broncos, but I see where you were kind of going with that, Cam. I'm a little worried about Atlanta for him.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. But obviously, one of the other ones that I guess wasn't, because there was only a small amount that were tagged.
Right. Daniel Jones got a transition, so the Colts are wanting to move forward with him, which doesn't surprise me either. They're, he was having a great year with them. I mean, just a phenomenal season up until his injury, and the options outside of him are just not so solid for the Colts. So no surprise. But let's talk about some of the guys that weren't tagged, and just see if you guys see, what you feel about the Broncos going after any of those guys.
I will say, on one hand, I think it's very, very Coltsy to do the transition tag for Daniel Jones, but it also proves that it's one more time again very Coltsy that they didn't tag Alec Pierce. Because if you were to ask, if you were to ask me like who's the one I would have tagged and not tagged, I probably would have wanted to tag Alec Pierce. Now that Alec Pierce isn't tagged, I'm still not interested in him. Like to talk about him briefly for the Broncos, I'm not interested in him. I think he's redundant for what they have in the room. I think that if you are clearly banking on signing him to a contract that is very close to Sutton's, and I just think that when you're signing him, you're banking on him being a wide receiver one, and that's a lot to ask for. And I think that you can, frankly, draft players that I think can develop them more into a wide receiver one, and it just seems a bit redundant for what you have in the room. And I think Michael Pittman's the same way. Nothing bad, nothing, nothing. I don't think he's a bad player. It's just I think he's very redundant for what they have in the room. Yeah, in specific too, like you're going to be signing him to maybe even more than Sutton's, 25, even 30 million. And so you're going to be paying him at that one wide receiver one money. And it's just, that's a lot to be banking on.
Mm-hmm.
That's understandable. I do see it a little differently because I don't think he is redundant to what you have in the room. I think he's got more reliable hands, and I think he's a better route runner than Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims, and he would be filling that slot role. I don't think you'd be signing Alec Pierce to be an X receiver. He might play some Z, which I imagine he'd definitely do, but yeah, I think that Alec Pierce would be an excellent fit for what this scheme is. I will say this, though. I think we should be preparing for the Broncos to stand pat at wide receiver. A lot of information coming out of Indianapolis is indicating that the Broncos like their receiver room, and some big moves are probably not expected to be made. Whether that's bullshit or not, I don't know, because we all know that Sean Payton can be the master of bullshit at times. Maybe he's trying to play poker here. Maybe he's just trying to throw other teams off the scent so that way they don't think that he's going after a wide receiver. But if it were up to me, Alec Pierce would be a big-time target. But it seems the Broncos, at least from an optical standpoint, are not going to make a move at wide receiver.
No. Alec Pierce is one of those guys, too, that Pat Surtain actually said that he was the the toughest receiver that he faced this year. He had mentioned that on his podcast, and Big Mike, I had heard that as well. That the Colts already are making good progress in retaining Pierce, and so that's probably what was happening there with deciding which guy to tag and
Riley Moss
how to
too
go
said
about
that
it.
too. I was gonna say Riley Moss was the one who said, and that might have been on the same podcast because
you know what?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I'm mistaking that, but it was.
I think Sertan said Adonai Mitchell.
Okay.
I think that's.
So you're right. It was Riley Moss. It was Riley Moss. Okay.
Yeah, and then Riley said Pierce, but either way, that's a big time compliment for Pierce.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right. I think Riley said the guy is so fast I couldn't even grab him.
That's right.
So, which maybe not a direct quote, especially since I just gave misinformation about PS2 anyway. But let's look at some of these other guys. And Gage, you had mentioned the running backs and that there could be some good choices for the Broncos to maybe get some upgrades in that room, and wanted to get a couple of your thoughts on the Kenneth Walker and the Travis Etienne not being tagged by their teams and becoming free agents.
Yeah. I want to start off with Kenneth Walker because I know that's a very popular name here in Denver. We talk about redundancy a little bit, and unfortunately, I do think that Walker's a little bit redundant with what you have in RJ Harvey, and I do feel like there might be a little bit of overlap in snaps, and that's what the Broncos want to avoid. They want to feature RJ Harvey as much as they can, but they still want to find somebody who can be more of a between the tackles runner. Don't get me wrong, I love Kenneth Walker here, and I do think that he could play well in this offense. It's just philosophically doesn't make sense. Travis Etienne, you keep hearing about Joker. We want a Joker. We need somebody who can be a Joker. And don't get me wrong, I think RJ Harvey is showing some of those traits, and maybe he can turn into that Joker for you. But I'd say at this point in time, Travis Etienne is a lot closer to a Joker than RJ Harvey is. So that's one that I don't know if a lot of fans are saying is an option, but I'd keep it in the back of your minds, Broncos country. I really would. And then Rico Dowdle, that's definitely another player at the running back position, somebody who had a breakout year last year with the Carolina Panthers, had some good seasons in Dallas as well. That's a big-time option, and the Cowboys have run an offensive scheme in the past very similar to Sean Payton's, so that could be one to keep an eye on.
All right.
Yeah, the Walker thing, I think I love the move, but I also think too for the Broncos specifically, you got to look at it just from the perspective of where they're also at too. And this is obviously an Etienne conversation; it's a Walker conversation. They were pretty aggressive, right? Like those are all the reports now. They were pretty aggressive to go out and get David Montgomery, and they still fell short because the Texans don't believe in an offensive line for C.J. Stroud, so they decided to trade an offensive lineman for David Montgomery and then trade off, other offensive linemen to the Browns. So once again, we're going through a whole nother offensive line with CJ Stroud. So everybody say a prayer for CJ Stroud. There's nothing wrong with him. They're just going through another offseason of, no offensive line. But I just,
and then they're going to keep saying that CJ Stroud sucks.
Right. Exactly. But I think that so the Broncos were aggressive there. And then if you think back to a couple of years ago, with Sean Payton, they really wanted Josh Jacobs. And they missed out on him. So and so given the fact that this free agency running back class is, for all intents and purposes, deep, they want to make sure they're aggressive to get that running back, right? Like they want to make sure they're aggressive to get that running back. And I think that for Kenneth Walker, I've seen one comparison that I just flat out disagree with. Player-wise, I've seen some people say he's almost like a Jaleel McLaughlin. He is not a Jaleel McLaughlin. He is not a Jaleel McLaughlin. And actually, I think he's even better than RJ Harvey. I think either one, Etienne or a Walker, complement RJ Harvey quite well. I think the one thing Walker does well is he's actually a physical runner. If you actually even look back at, even his Michigan State tape, I mean, he was a bruiser of a running back. and I think that, when you even look to like the way that he shows his patience, the way that he sees blocks develop, it very much reminds you of another Michigan State running back, and that being Le'Veon Bell. So I think that he really does fit the mold of probably what the Broncos really would want here. The only thing is just his pass protection can be a little bit lacking, and I think that that's where I'm very interested to see what the Broncos do here, because if they're going to be aggressive, I would not rule out them being aggressive to also have the most high-end ceiling for their running back room this year. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I'm fully expecting J.K. Dobbins to still be a Denver Bronco. I am very much expecting it to be either a Travis Etienne, a Kenneth Walker, whoever, and then a J.K. Dobbins, and then an R.J. Harvey. And frankly, I wouldn't be the least bit upset if that's the room. I wouldn't be the least bit upset if that's the room. You can go get your draft pick a little bit later and then have it be on your practice squad or whatever. But like, I do think that the free agency class is just way too good to ignore from both the J.K. Dobbins side of things and from the other options available.
I mean, as far as J.K. Dobbins concerned, I definitely agree with you. I think that he's going to be back in Denver, and I think he's going to have a big-time role in this offense. I believe that J.K. is probably going to be your RB1B. You're going to have R.J. Harvey as your third down back, kind of your red zone back, your pass-catching back, and then they're going to bring in, a Kenneth Walker, a Travis Etienne. Maybe they go after a Tyler Algier. That's probably my top target at this point in time is Tyler Algier. I think that he really would complement what R.J. Harvey does. And I want to make it clear, I do as well think Kenneth Walker is better than R.J. Harvey. I just think that as far as the role they fill in this offense, it's pretty damn similar, man.
Yeah. And J.K. Dobbins was, at the time he got hurt, he was number 5 running back in the NFL. He was on pace for over 1,200 yards for the season. So he wasn't just going to creep over that 1,000-yard threshold. He was really kicking ass. And when he had that unfortunate injury against the Raiders, and he's making such a concerted effort and almost a campaigning to stay with the team, it almost makes you feel like that they could get probably a pretty good deal on this. But Cam, you did mention Jaleel McLaughlin, and the Broncos decided they didn't want to pay him $3.5 million a year. So he is going to be a free agent. What do you think the market looks like for him? And do you think that he's definitely done in Denver?
Very, yeah, no, I agree. But it's very interesting because Kliss and some other people have said that they're not ruling out a return for him. I will say this though. If you're not tendering him for even the $3.5 million, why even bring him back? That's the thing for me. It's like, why even bring him back? Because specific to with the running back class, and even for just something that is that amount of money, what's the point of even bringing him back? And then obviously you make the decision to tender or exclusive rights tender, Tyler Bidet, right? So what's the point of even doing that over Jaleel McLaughlin? I probably would lean more of wanting to keep Jaleel over at Tyler Bidet. I don't want either of them personally, but it's just like, but it's just one where it's just like, I don't know. It's just a very dumbfounding conversation.
And the same week that Gage, hold that thought for a second. The same week that we find out that the salary cap is going to actually exceed $300 million for the first time, and a $3.5 million contract for a running back, when that's a real position of need, does pretty much tell you that they don't necessarily value him as much as maybe some people thought, especially since Sean Payton does really like him as a player, maybe as a practice player, maybe as a training player. I don't know, but that was pretty telling to me.
I think there's a lot to really unpack here from a few different angles. The first one being, you look at how much J.K. Dobbins made last year, and he made $2.something million. So you're not going to give Jaleel McLaughlin a tender that's worth more than what J.K. Dobbins, your RB1, made last year. So the tender, just from a math standpoint, didn't make any sense. And I do believe that Jaleel McLaughlin has a chance to be back here in Denver because Sean Payton likes him. I think that Jaleel's underrated as a runner of the football, especially with his vision, his ability to squirt between those tiny little holes between the tackles. I like that, and I think that Jaleel brings something to the table that the other running backs in the room just don't bring. Maybe a guy like Deuce Vaughn, but we haven't seen Vaughn get that opportunity yet. And Sean Payton loved Jaleel. He's first one in, last one out. And I was talking with Zach Seegers about the whole Tyler Bidet Jaleel situation, and he pointed out that they should be looked at as two different scenarios here because Jaleel's a restricted free agent, whereas Bidet is an exclusive rights free agent. You pretty much just by default want to retain your exclusive rights free agents. There's no guaranteed money. He's probably not going to make the team, but just retain him and let him compete and see if he can do something, basically. But with Jaleel, again, you're not going to give him that tender, but you can definitely sign him back towards the vet minimum and bring him in and have him be your practice squad running back next year. I think that's very possible. So I think that we need to be looking at this situation with Jaleel and Bidet just a little bit differently.
And I've heard in multiple interviews, Sean Payton has actually referenced the fact that Dobbins was signed so late in the process. So it almost sounds like, whether he was like, it was foreshadowing about JK himself or another player. He's mentioned it in multiple interviews that I've seen. So I thought that was interesting. Deuce Vaughn, what do you think he is legitimately going to get a chance? I mean, he's a guy that if on Deuce Vaughn bobblehead day, it'll be the actual size. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised, but I guess it's one where, it's the point of why did they sign him in the first place? Because like if you're not going to feature him, in essence, what was the point of signing him? But like, no, to gauge this point, like you're right. I mean, we are talking about in air quotes pennies of the dollar when it comes to some of this stuff. Like the Bidet one, he's an exclusive rights for agents. They can do it now, but also they can move on from him later. So it just kind of is what it is. And Jaleel, frankly, could be the same way. My thinking is just more so, despite the fact that Bidet, McLaughlin, they're great stories. McLaughlin specifically, they're great stories. Undrafted free agents and everything. Statistically, we are still talking about roughly the same exact room we did last year, which resulted in a bottom feeder of a rushing attack near the end of last year, despite of Jaleel carrying it, maybe even at times Harvey. We are still talking about a very bottom feeder running back room. And so that's, I think, where it really needs to change. And one of the reasons why I'm very much a proponent of, at the very least, 3 bodies alone in that running back room.
Sure, definitely. And regardless, this room needs a reset. I've been advocating for that. I think everybody in Broncos country has been advocating for that. But I do feel like individuals such as Jaleel McLaughlin, who have put in a lot of work with this team, should at least be given the opportunity to be here and to stay here. That's just my thought.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So fast forward, if you Estime, I was going to say something else, but seeing him doing well with the Saints, what do you think? What do you think of his future with them, especially since they're slated to be one of those teams interested in drafting Love as a running back?
I think Estime had every opportunity here in Denver.
I agree.
He was a 5th round pick. That's comparatively high for a running back. They wanted to give him an opportunity to start. He just never was able to take advantage of it. He put the ball on the ground in practice. He was definitely the last running back on the depth chart throughout the entirety of training camp and the preseason. Couldn't rise above that. So I don't know, man. Estime just needed a change of scenery. Go back to his home state of Louisiana. Was a lot more comfortable in that state, in that situation there in New Orleans, and got the opportunity there that he needed. And good for him, but hindsight's 2020. I don't think Estime would have worked out in Denver.
Yeah, agreed. 100%.
Yeah, agree. And you also factor into schematics, the fumbling issues. It was all kind of snowballing, unfortunately for him, in a downward spiral, if you will. And it didn't really work out. And as things were kind of progressing, it kind of became why they drafted RJ Harvey. For as much as there were some lows there with RJ Harvey, there were some pretty exciting highs, some very exciting highs, so much so in the receiving, ability with him that you're just like, estimate didn't even give us this for as much as you saw it at times with him as a prospect.
Hold on. Someone's telling me my mic's messed up. Let me see here.
So you startled this one of our chat, people in the shower, Gage.
Is that better? Oh, Jesus Christ! I see what's going on. Hold on.
You said
okay, that's gotta be better.
I was gonna say you do sound fine here for us at least.
All right, so Vichin, if you can get back in the shower, we'll have Gage do a rant.
An ASMR.
Do I still sound good right now? Because I just turned my mic down.
You do sound. Cool. You sound solid.
You don't sound so unhinged, which is
apologies for the interruption.
All right, so what I was gonna say before the estimate talk was, so fast forward it to the next few days. As free agents are about to be signed and we're all huddled around our phones waiting for the first one, who's going to be the first signee from the Denver Broncos?
Yeah.
In-house or out of house?
First one that's announced.
I mean, bring up Landon's comment. That's probably what it's going to be perfectly honest with you. I hate it. I really do, man. And especially with the news that came out right before we went live that another defensive captain linebacker is available in Bobby Okereke of the New York Giants who's getting cut. What on earth are we doing? We've got Devin Lloyd available. Right. We've got so many good linebackers in this free agency class, and we're staying complacent and bringing back the liability on defense that is Alex Singleton. He does some good stuff on defense. Don't get me wrong. He's really, really solid as a run defender. He's your defensive play caller. I get all of it. But he cannot cover to save his fucking life, man.
Yeah.
So we found Gage's burner account. He goes by Logan. I keep hearing, George Payton even said it the other day, about bringing these guys back, and then you're hearing that it's I think it was Kliss that said, Singleton is this player that there's such a disconnect between what the fans think he should be making and what the team is going to end up paying him, and it's I like Alex. I think he's a great teammate. I enjoy him. I give him all the credit in the world. I do have his jersey hanging out back there. Yeah. But to pay him any more than the $6 million, I think is absolutely bananas that he was making these past couple of years, especially with some of these other options. That Devin Lloyd, can you imagine if that signing comes to pass and all of a sudden we're not talking about what's happening in inside linebacker? And here we have this comment, the draft is really good. Imagine if you'd pair Lloyd with maybe a first round or second round linebacker pick. I mean, that would be an incredible upgrade.
The draft is deep at linebacker. Free agency is deep at linebacker, and we're paying Alex Singleton.
Yep. And
what do you think it is, guys? What is it?
I think it really is about the locker room. And don't get me wrong, the locker room for that Broncos team is very tight knit. Don't get me wrong, it is very, very tight knit. But it is just one where it's at some point you gotta cut your losses, and it's and that's kind of like the thing with Jaleel McLaughlin too. It's great locker room presence, great story. Coming back from the cancer that Alex Singleton had to deal with, and but it's one where it's just like, yeah, you look at the product on the field and it's also not matching up for what you're going to allegedly give him, which is way more than what he even signed for in his first extension, which was like 3 for 18.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're bumping it up to basically what you signed Dre Greenlaw for. It doesn't make any sense. And then you factor it into with everything that he's done on the field of, yeah, he does run fits. And me and Gage talked about this before, but it's like he does really good on run fits, but also it's one of the reasons why tackles as a stat is, so misleading because, yeah, he can have a lot of tackles, but about those missed tackles percentage, that's also really high too. So it's just, it's that for what you're getting and with how deep this linebacker class is, as we just said, move on. Like it's time to move on. And I think that's the thing when it comes to the running back room, the linebacker room, and frankly, even the tight end room, which I'm sure we'll get into as well. It's just like at some point you got to look at a room and say, what can we manage as far as the highest ceiling possible for this room? And I think at some point they need to look at themselves in the mirror and say, let's get the highest ceiling possible of a linebacker room going forward.
I agree.
Because in those situations where you've seen a tight end wide open, running rampant, like down the sideline or on a slant towards the sideline, like who's generally chasing him, And again, this is not to bash Alex. I
agree.
I think he's been a great player over the years, but if there are other opportunities to make changes and upgrades, I mean, that is certainly one of them. Thank you, Dermeyer. We really appreciate it. So defense or offense focus for the Broncos in this draft, guys. We have our full complement of picks, I believe, and a couple in the fourth round. So the second being the Vele pick from the Saints. So that's a little bit earlier in that round. What do you think the focus is going to be?
I don't know.
Yeah,
because I think that free agency is going to dictate a lot of that. And I say it every year, good teams, they take best player available in the draft and they figure out a position for him later on. And sometimes you'll end up with a Jahdae Barron type situation, but Barron's still a good player and they're going to find ways to use good players. I think that we're really looking towards free agency to fill our needs. And I'd say right now you have an equal amount of needs on offense and defense because you're going to have tight end, running back, possibly wide receiver, possibly offensive line. On the other side of the ball, you've got D-line, you've got linebacker. Those are the two that immediately come to mind. Possibly some DB depth, some safety depth maybe. So you're going to have equal needs on both sides of the ball that you're going to have to address. I don't know what direction they're going to go until we get to free agency.
Yeah. And it's because that's the other part of this too, is like when you're picking at 30, you are kind of sticking to your board. I think you're sticking to your board anyway when, with whatever it is that you're picking. But when you're looking at, the Broncos, picks and everything, it's just, it gets to be needs. And for all intents and purposes, for anybody that wants to talk about this Broncos team, there are some needs, but they are needs that I think you can go out and get in free agency or in the trade market versus in the draft. The draft, I think, is one where you can really develop them and possibly even become that. And I think that that's where, positions are really, at an abundance for you. But it's also one you also have to look at things that make sense, right? Like it makes my head explode when I see safety or even, some of these options that frankly shouldn't be an option that are an option for you sometimes in mock drafts. I think for me, and then knowing kind of like how rich still some of these classes are, it's going to be really hard pressed for me to still ignore a position that I would love to see developed, which is the very famous quote of, "We like what we have," when it comes to this wide receiver room. So I say all of that to where it's like the ideal pick for me at 30, player and everything, would be Omar Cooper at 30. Like Omar Cooper at 30 is the pick that I've been badly wanting, at least within the last week. I will say, though, I am not confident. I am not confident about this team picking at 30. I am actually very more confident that they actually trade from that spot, either up or down, to actually, from 30. It's just such a weird position. And frankly, I would also say that given the fact that it's deep in a couple of positions, whether it be offensive lineman or even, linebacker, and frankly, maybe running back on a certain level based on rounds, you can trade back, accumulate some capital for a team desperate enough to get back into the first round, maybe even give you a future first, and then you can start building the offensive line again, building this linebacking group, build some of that wide receiver with this one pick, maybe even the running back group. So it's just like you can start building out your roster a little bit more with some of those pieces. And frankly, we also know that it's a George Payton staple too, to kind of trade back as well.
Cam, can you pull up Jeff's comment?
Yeah.
Think about this, though. This is basically a second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
At 30, it's essentially a second round pick. So if you could move down and potentially pick up a future first, let's say that somebody really likes Ty Simpson and Ty Simpson is available in that area, you could get their future first round pick and probably pick up a couple of second round picks as well. And there are immediate starters that you can find in the second round this year. At linebacker, at tight end, at running back, all big positions of need for this team. Or you can think about a future starter on the offensive line because Garrett Bowles, Mike McGlinchey, they're getting up there in age. Ben Powers' future here is questionable. So that's all stuff you need to consider. And I'm definitely all in on trenches in the draft.
Yeah.
So what about trading up for, like, what would it take to trade up for Sadiq, you think?
It depends. It very much depends because, one team in particular who very well could be interested in Kenyon Sadiq.
I know.
Would be a team who spurned us last year, one pick before us, and that would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So if you can get ahead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it may force you to give up a first round pick, but also I think that's the thing. Like, I'm still tempted in it because, like, with where the Broncos are at roster wise and with where they're at, I'm okay giving a first round pick because it's going to end up being between the 20s, the mid 20s to even the 30s, at this point. So it's just like, what do you have to lose?
Can you imagine that guy?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's just kind of like the thing that I'm weighing. And I think that, like, and given with how you factor this in too, given with how probably we expect the Broncos to be relatively aggressive in free agency or this offseason, would factor in too that, like, hey, let's be more aggressive and let's go out and actually go get that tight end, right? Let's go trade up for that tight end, that one tight end who could possibly be there within that 15 range, and everything. So it just kind of fits still within that pick 30 range of, like, do you trade up? Do you trade back? So it's just like, that's why I'm not confident of them actually staying put and picking at 30.
I think I would love to see us go get aggressive and pick him. If you think about where the Broncos, for all intents and purposes, are going to be picking in the first round in future drafts, if all goes well, they're essentially going to be second round picks to begin with. So giving up a future first round pick in order to jump up and draft a massive position of need. Guys I know KC is another one. I've seen the Chargers, as a possible destination, that would be, I can't imagine one Bronco fan would be disappointed in an aggressive move that reunites Bo Nix with his former freshman tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be down for it. I have been wanting a true inline tight end on this team for 3 years now, if not longer. So that would be a dream come true for me, quite frankly. But even if you can't get Sadiq, there are still a lot of good tight ends that are going to be available in the draft and free agency too. I mean, you've got David Njoku, Cade Otton. Oh man, I think we're actually going to be a real tight end this year.
Chiga Kwanko, the from
I'd
Tennessee.
be down for him, but we still would need an inline tight end to complement him. He's kind of he'd be an upgrade over Evan Ingram for me as your inline tight end, but you'd still need your upgrade over Troutman because I'm sorry, he's gonzo. I do not want Troutman back whatsoever.
So Chuck Hartman Music mentions an undrafted free agent tight end Rohan Jones from Arkansas, 19 receptions, 519 yards, 4 touchdowns. What do you know about him? Are you familiar with his game?
I am not.
I am not. I'm gonna have to file him away. I will say, as far as the one that is the probably sleeper with a bunch of people that probably is not talked about nearly enough as far as the draft would be Nate Borkature for me. Nate Borkature's a tight end that I will say selfishly and biasedly got a chance to meet his parents at the Senior Bowl. And so I kind of got a chance to kind of file away and, got a chance to really know him and everything. But he's an inline tight end. He's basically, a player that you can get a chance to actually use as a blocker. But when you see him as when you get a chance to see him as a receiver and you get a chance to see some of the opportunities that he had in the Senior Bowl, he made the most of his opportunities, right? Like, he made the most of his opportunities. He actually posterized one guy in like what they call a mat drill or, and everything where they do a tight end on a linebacker, and he posterized a guy in the end zone, on someone. So if you can add that with his physicality to this room with Evan Ingram, I think that would do some good. I wouldn't even be the least.
Where's he from, Cam?
Texas A&M.
Okay. All right. I'm going to scout him.
Texas A&M. But I will say I would not be the least bit upset at all because of this class if they double dipped at tight end. So even if you get Sadiq, say at wherever you traded up for him, then you go out and get some tight end later like a Borkature or or heck, maybe go early, right? Like you go get a Sam Roush, you go get maybe you might luck into a Max Clare, right? Like, I wouldn't be the least bit upset at that at all.
Cam, when you say his name, you sound like the Swedish chef, by the way.
A Borkature.
I'm thinking about Cole Payton, the quarterback out of North Dakota State. He's a really intriguing player because he's athletic as hell. He's a big dude, large frame, could definitely translate well to be a tight end at the NFL level, but he does also have a bit of an arm, man. He can throw the ball a little bit. He's not a consistent thrower. His accuracy can be a little all over the map, but if you have a package for him where he throws the ball maybe once every couple of games and you could maybe fool the defense and get some of those Taysom Hill type plays in there, I'd be totally down for it, man. You could use him in a bunch of different roles, maybe in a special teams role as well. The more and more I scout Cole Payton, the more and more I'm intrigued.
And when your dad's a coach, you stand a really good chance of getting picked.
I was going to say there's already one person who I have my eye on for that, and it's not necessarily like a Taysom Hill, but a guy who already lit up the combine athletically, and that'd be Taylon Green. Taylon Green from Arkansas, like he's really nice.
Looks like Chuck's on the same page with you there.
He lit.
I know, right as you were saying that, Chuck's comment popped up.
He lit up the combine. He had above I believe it was like 11-inch broad, and over like a 40-inch. He actually had a better combine, like statistically, than Anthony Richardson.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
What a comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you think about Anthony Richardson, the athlete, though. The dude is an elite athlete.
I know, he really is. And he's a good guy, too. That's like, it's
Have you guys been following Casey Concepcion, by the way, like in him admitting about the his speech impediment? And everything? I that's one reason for me of like to draft him at 30.
High character dude. He seems like a great guy. I would definitely love him in this locker room. So yeah, I think that he fits from a schematic perspective. I think he fits from a locker room perspective, and I've even heard some reporters kind of link him to the Broncos. So keep an eye on that one.
I forget who mocked him, by the way. I believe it was
one of the big dogs, I think.
Yeah, mocked him at 30.
Yeah, it was like
and that's what
Tyler,
he's upset
Ryder,
about.
or
Is
somebody like that. It was one of the big boys.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at a time when people are not putting themselves out there at the combine more and more, you know, the fact that, you know, with that he put himself out there in that fashion and then got some blowback or some, you know, some negative, and I'm sure it was not the majority of people, but, and then he had to answer to that, just tells you a lot about this guy, you know, in a very positive way. But you know, that aside, his talent is outstanding as well. So
Yeah. Well, and the wide receiver class is really deep. Like Brazel was just mentioned by Mike. So it's just, yeah, there's a lot of really fascinating options with wide receivers. So as much, I will say, as much as they what they famously said, we like what we have, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they added a wide receiver in this class, just for how good it is. Like, you know, you have guys like Ted Hurst, who I'm circling from Georgia State. Frankly, for everybody that wanted George Pickens, everybody would probably want to circle Ted Hurst because he's a player that I think archetype wise would very much fit. You know, as far as like I saw someone mention Jacoby Lane. He's one I'm kind of on when it comes to Jacoby Lane. But I mean, I don't know, like. Yeah, so I just think it's one where I'm like, I don't know, it still comes back to what we like what we have. But Omar Cooper, Denzel Boston, I really like Chris Bell. The only thing you're getting there is the ACL injury, which I think you still have to factor in him still being drafted at 30, just because the 5th-year option is so valuable for an injured player. You know, and everything too. I get the concerns when it comes to Broncos country and, you know, and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely a turnoff, but it's just a 5th-year option for something of a player with an injury is so valuable for that. You know, and obviously Chris Brazel. But I mean, gosh, like, yeah, so it's hard to ignore some of those players. And then obviously, you know, the running backs speak for itself too.
Yes.
So let's go back to the question I had with Gage to kind of set things off on the whole Singleton deal. So I'm gonna change the question a little bit.
Okay.
So the first free agent signing that is not presently a Denver Bronco for both of you guys. Okay.
We have to preface it that way because it's like it's either it's gonna end up being Alex Singleton or it's gonna end up being J.K. Dobbins, right? Like that's gonna like the top 2 choices, probably for anybody. So I think it's you have to preface the question that way.
Mine's gonna be a little bit spicy. I'm gonna say Travis Etienne.
Oof.
I hate you, Gage, because that is that's gonna be mine too. Because it's like I don't know. It's just because it's one or the other now for me. It's gonna end up being Kenneth Walker. It's gonna be Etienne. And again, I don't think, you know, and I actually just tweeted it before we went live. But it's like you look at the free agency running back options. Take the financials out of this. Mm-hmm. You really can't go wrong with any of those options. Like you really can't. And frankly, they are definitely more of a deeper in terms of the running back free agency market than it comes to the draft. And that's one of the reasons why I think that JK's back, and I think that they go out and be aggressive for you know a running back here. I loved the Breece Hall fit. I still love the Kenneth Walker fit. It's just when it comes to maybe the perfect fit, it's Travis Etienne. And I know that actually, let's see if we can find the comment. I believe it was Jeff Bryan who mentioned it was about Travis Etienne and called him Alvin Kamara. Like it was like Alvin Kamara. And that's basically what it is. Like you look at Travis Etienne and he's basically like a much younger and Alvin Kamara. And I think that like the part that I always was kind of struggling with when it came to Etienne was just all about the usage, like all about the usage when it came to RJ Harvey in the passing game. And like that's basically what I just kind of struggled with was he's so good in the passing game. Harvey is so good in the passing game. But at the same time, it's like when you think of the threats that you want on offense, don't you want to best suit them for what they're good at? So I just think that, so it's like I wouldn't even rule out, if they signed him, that you have a package of RJ Harvey and Travis Etienne still in some packages, because Etienne is actually really good of a runner on the inside as much as he is on the outside. And that's a misconception for a lot of people. It's just, you still kind of give the give and take, I think, of some pass protection. But and also too, it's like Sean Payton has proven in his time in Denver, and even Davis Webb probably too, with what them working together, they're great about putting players in space. And just dreaming about the situation of putting Travis Etienne and RJ Harvey in really good situations is going to help make this team a better offense going forward.
Now, the reason why my mind just keeps coming to Travis Etienne, and spoiler alert, there's going to be a Travis Etienne video tonight on Broncos Syndicate. It's just because Sean Payton wants that joker. He wants somebody who can be an elite receiver out of the backfield, and Harvey's shown flashes of that, but we know for a fact that Etienne is a damn good receiver out of the backfield. And I'd say that Harvey's better than he is in pass pro, so that's going to keep Harvey on the field, even if you bring in an Etienne. And if you have one or the other on the field, the defense is still going to be threatened by them getting the ball out of the backfield. And I'd argue that's a really good thing, because the defense won't know how to match up from a personnel standpoint.
Exactly.
That's going to really screw them over, because they won't know that, all right, if this guy's in, he's going to get the ball as a receiver, or if this guy's in, it's probably going to be a carry, or it's probably going to be a pass protection rep. They won't have those tells on the field so much if you have a guy like Travis Etienne to complement an RJ Harvey.
Right. Gage, why don't you continue on with Rodney's question? Do you think the Broncos will move on from Sutton? I'm assuming he means after next season.
I mean, I think that's a conversation for them to be quite honest. I don't think that Courtland Sutton's going anywhere this year. I think the Broncos are telling the truth in the sense that they're content with him as a wide receiver. I don't know if they're content with other players in the room, but I think that when they indicate they like that room, they're indicating they like Sutton.
Because his new contract hasn't even started yet. I think it starts this coming season, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one where it's a really hard contract to trade off from. And so in order for that one, you really kind of like just have to like pare that thing down to probably the player that he is, now. And that's the thing I keep coming back to. And I got a lot of pushback, like when I'm trying to like describe him as a player. And like, I'm not saying for what he's given from this last year to now he's a big slot receiver. It's just what he's basically become from my vantage point in the future is just this play of a big slot receiver where he's not going to really give you much yak. He's not going to give you much yak, and he's basically just going to be giving you those clutch third downs and those key opportunities where if you really need a first down, he's the guy you really want to rely to, because right now his bread and butter is gone. The 50-50 ball is gone. And so he's basically just relying on him basically being, for all intents and purposes, Travis Kelce at wide receiver minus the yak.
Right. The next broken tackle Courtland Sutton has will be actually his first broken tackle. Like, he does not, and he is like Vishen, no yak. It's true. But you know what? Courtland is steady Eddie. He did have some drops at some inopportune times towards the end of last season, but we were hard on him a couple of years ago, and I'm thrilled that he's still part of this team. He's part of that room. I think we can upgrade that room a little bit too. That's not a knock on him. I think there are chances to upgrade just about every position on most teams. So
yeah.
Guy falls at any slight touch. It's a little rough, but he doesn't break it. Yeah.
I think we also have to take into account that he's Bo's guy through and through, man.
For sure,
He
absolutely.
he is the number one target for Bo. They've got chemistry unlike anyone else on this team, so that's something else you have to take into account.
And relatively speaking, when you do look at this room, it's why this Broncos wide receiver room is so puzzling, because the archetypes and players are there. It's just now I will say this, and it's the bar is not high. I will say this: the bar is not high, but I will say with what you looked at, with what he was able to do with the Saints and with Sean Payton specifically coaching him, I'm very interested about Ronald Curry at wide receiver coach, because at this point, Ronald Curry at wide receiver coach, and I said the bar isn't high, but he's probably at this point one of the best wide receiver coaches this Broncos team has had at least in 10 years or whatever it might be. So I think that there's at least a chance that something might develop within this room for some of these players, aka Pat Bryant. We might actually get a chance to see more of Pat Bryant developing. And frankly, for as much as myself included and even others dog on Troy Franklin for the drops and everything, we said it before. If you were to ask me if we're going to get 700 plus yards, even 800 plus yards for what we saw in 2024, I don't know if I would, agree with you there. And so the fact we got a chance to see that and see that develop, and then on top of that, the need to get better from Troy and him actually recognizing that and adding 10 more pounds and adding the opportunity to actually, get a little bit better with his hands and get a bit, better as far as after the catch. That should excite Bronco fans just a little bit, because if you really do add that to, the yak that he can possibly add to the room, you might see him possibly be a Courtland Sutton type of replacement where he can play outside. He can do a bunch of these things route running wise. And then obviously the wild card that we all know in this mix, and that's Marvin Mims. If they can just utilize, Marvin Mims, I think that would be the best of both worlds for everybody. A player that they can utilize in both the yak, outside, inside the slot, whatever. If you can be able to utilize that, I think the ceiling of the room, I think will excel most definitely.
So I just saw a comment asking if the Broncos were interested in Kyler Murray. No, definitely not.
The
Denver
athletic
has a starting quarterback, and Kyler is looking to be a starter somewhere.
So where's he going?
I'm gonna guess Minnesota right now.
I love that fit.
Me
I
too.
really hadn't even thought about it, but I love that fit. There.
Well, they got to do something to keep Justin Jefferson engaged, because I'm surprised he is not losing his shit right now and just saying, I need to get out of this place. What a fumble they've done in his prime years. Do you think Kirk Cousins could end up back there, or you think it's a Kyler situation?
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised by it, but I think I could see Atlanta being a sneaky spot for Kyler. I mean, if you really want kind of a bit of a higher ceiling, maybe for Kyler offensively, for what they could do for playmakers, Atlanta would be incredible. Plus, it's very obvious that's a very easy division to win. So if you can go down there and at least put together 9 wins, that could probably win you the division with 9 wins.
I actually was kind of thinking about Atlanta a little bit, because they have a left-handed starting quarterback. Why not go get a left-handed backup quarterback? That way you don't have to flip your offense if you change quarterbacks. I really think that would make sense. So go get Tua as your backup.
Maybe.
Why not? And then maybe go get Dylan Gabriel too. There's already that connection with Kevin Stefanski.
It's okay.
Have an all left-handed quarterback room. That way you don't have to flip your playbook.
It's okay.
Yeah, they say 2 lefties are better than 1.
It's okay. Tua is going to be the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, and then Fernando Mendoza will take over week 8.
I would laugh if they did that, honestly.
Oh my gosh, that would be a great prediction.
I wouldn't even say it's a prediction, just more of a wish.
True.
Yeah.
So just to follow up on your ETN remarks, were those just predictions, or is that? I know that they were your predictions, but are they also the one first that you want as well?
You know,
For me, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Like,
No,
who's
it's
your
like-
dream signing?
my dream signing, honestly, my dream signing, I think, is Kate Otten. I think Kate Otten is my dream signing.
Yeah.
Just from the youth, the tight end position. It's not to say that I would hate like a David Njoku or a Dallas Goedert, because like they would be great here. It's just you're adding another 30-year-old to the room, and that's not a bad thing. Like you can go out and draft your young tight end if you need to, in the draft. But it's just you already got a youth there on there. You got Kate Otten there. He can play in line. He's got the aura too of like no gloves, like the Wayne Corbett, like no gloves. Like he's got wrist tapes and everything. And I know it sounds kind of a crazy little bit of a pipe dream like that to say Kate Otten, but just I probably would say Kate Otten there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, if you will, for a pipe dream, it's not popular when you think of like Devin Lloyd's of the world, but Caden Ellis. I really think Caden Ellis is one I really want a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Caden Ellis would make a lot of sense. You stole one from me. You got me back because I was going to say Kate Otten as well. So I'm going to go back to old reliable, baby, David Njoku.
What about Isaiah Likely? I've seen his name a couple of times in here.
It's hard because it's the conversation that me and Gage were having like a couple shows ago, and it's like I don't hate it, but like you're going to be moving off of Evan Ingram for me. Like if you're going to be bringing Isaiah Likely in, you'd have to move on from Evan Ingram or even Chigga to what Gage was saying. So like, and plus I actually think I think he goes to the Giants. That's my prediction. Like I think he can. I could see him going to the Giants, honestly. Von Miller.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities, and let me tell you why. I've heard that Denver might capitalize on the depth that they have at edge rusher and flip somebody that they have for a draft pick. I know we were just talking about bringing in his brother, but I've heard Jonah Ellis is possibly being a player, or Dondre Tillman. If they do, you are going to need a backup edge rusher, and Von Miller can still rush the passer. He can still accumulate sacks. He is not the same Vaughn that he was even 5-6 years ago, but he can still rush the passer and will still pick up 6-7 sacks at least throughout the year. So I feel like Von Miller can fill a niche role on this team as a third down pass rushing specialist, but I don't know if that's the direction they go. I think it's all predicated on if they trade one of their edge rushers. Vaughn's made it clear he wants to be back here. Like, apparently he talked to the Broncos at the Combine and said that he wants to be back here. So it's possible, but I wouldn't say it's probable at this point in time.
He's been wanting to come back to Denver for 3 years now.
He's been wanting to come back to Denver since he got traded, bro. He would have re-signed that offseason afterwards if he had the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see some of the one person.
Yeah, Zach, we're and I know Gage made a comment in the chat about the questions. We're trying to get to everybody. This, I got to tell you guys, this chat has been en fuego tonight. So thank you for thanks for pushing things along, guys. I mean, we've gotten even off kilter like with some of the topics that we were planning on talking about, just because you guys have been just adding so much to the mix. So thank you so much. Rodney says trade Jonathan Cooper.
We're coming over from Broncos Syndicate. So thank you guys very much, everybody who's watching this on Broncos Syndicate.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that, Gage. Trade Jonathan Cooper. What do you think of that idea?
I think that would be one that I'm circling for next year. Just because, like, again, I come back to the conversation of I think it's irresponsible to think of the Broncos getting wide receiver 1, tight end 1, running back 1 in one off season. You know, I mean, it could happen in this offseason. Like, you can't rule anything out. But if I'm trading like a Jonathan Cooper or frankly even a Riley Moss, something I would probably want to circle there is just like to where I actually did not hate just to throw that out there, I did not hate the projection that came out. I believe it was like about a month ago or a couple weeks ago or whatever that came out that had Moss going to Philly for AJ Brown. I don't actually hate that, just from the simple fact of Moss gets to reunite with Cooper DeJean. It's a familiar thing for him, from the days back in Iowa. And frankly, AJ Brown, I've been kind of warming up to AJ a little bit, not George Pickens, but AJ Brown, and everything, just because it's really more so about his quarterback and more so about the OC that they had down there, so if you can be able to get that, I think that would be very interesting fit. Although it seems, Glenn, all the Pistons are in favor of AJ Brown over there with New England right now.
Yeah, but you know what? It's one of those things too where he was miserable and they just won the Super Bowl. Like if the guy is going to be pissed off and they're their defending champions, like the Eagles are their true own worst enemy. And that's what scares me about this. And Greg Penner's mentioned it. He's mentioned the importance of the guys in the locker room. And that's why I think some of these people, like, DNVR, they were talking about even like Tyreek Hill. I can't even imagine that he would be considered in the locker room or by ownership because of his off the field antics and the distractions and just everything about him. And I feel like, I'm not comparing AJ Brown to him at all. He hasn't had any of those situations or any of those accusations, but I think there's some better options that might be, more solid fits, but I wouldn't be surprised if Riley Moss gets flipped at some point soon.
Yeah.
Let's just put it this way. I think it's more likely that Riley gets flipped this year as opposed to Cooper. I mean, Cooper's just been extended. From a financial standpoint, it's not going to make sense. With Riley, you haven't extended him yet. And as much as I've defended Riley Moss, both on 5280 and on Broncos Syndicate, I still don't think he's earned a second contract with the team yet. So I think it is more likely because you do have Jahdae Barron, even though I think Barron's more of a slot player at this point in time. You've got Chris Abrams-Drain, but I don't think that either one of them are getting traded this year. I think Denver's going to be in the business of trying to acquire players as opposed to part ways with players, because let's just be honest here. They were one game away and, quite frankly, a quarterback injury away from winning the damn Super Bowl. So they're a lot closer than I think fans are giving them credit for. And I think a lot of fans are used to this team being so bad that we're trying to reconstruct the roster every year. The roster's pretty much in a good spot this year. We just need to reinforce it.
Yeah. And it's funny. I even got a lot of pushback on this one, but like there's really only one free agent wide receiver that I'm actually interested in because of what he can give to the room and what he gives to the room, upside and everything. And someone actually asked a question about it, and it's Wan'Dale Robinson.
I knew you were going to pull up that comment.
I was waiting till the last
comment that for weeks.
And it's just because he can hit the three levels of the defense, and then more importantly, the Davis Webb connection. And then obviously the elephant in the room: are they utilizing Marvin Mims or not? I will say though, I can see him also being a bit of a challenge for Troy Franklin, just because of him taking the top off of a defense and the speed that he can have. But he's the only wide receiver. Like he is the only wide receiver that I am at least interested in. Although it seems like there's been a bunch of Tennessee Titans, buzz, and that's just because they have like $2 billion in cap space right now to work with. And obviously they're not the only one.
So you mentioned Davis Webb with Robinson, but what do you guys think of Davis Webb with Ingram? Because as tight as they are,
I like it.
That does keep Ingram a little bit more in play to stay here, I feel like, because they are tight.
Yeah. I agree with that. And obviously, Glenn, we didn't get a chance to talk about your thoughts, as far as him, getting the chance to be the offensive coordinator officially now. It's just a very interesting conversation because I think even Kliss pointed it out in an article like a couple of days ago. This is, and I made the point of like, this is going to finally allow Sean Payton to be the true, the true head coach, that he needs to be on this team, right? Like, and you can probably get a chance to be that true CEO type, So I am very curious about it because I think too. The other elephant in the room is the coach in waiting. We're talking about a guy who's 30 years old, 10 head coaching jobs, not counting the offensive coordinator jobs that were available once, they were, once they were available, and he didn't go. So I think there's at least a window here where he doesn't take a job in 2027.
The fact that Michael's comment, please, because he just renewed on Broncos Syndicate. Thank you so much, Michael. Should the Broncos pay Jaquan McMillan? I think all of us are in agreement that yes, they should, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually the reason why there's Riley Moss trade discussions because of that, so that they can be able to see see Barron possibly play outside.
I mean, the depth in that cornerback room is just insane. I mean, we forget about Chris Abrams-Drain, and like every time he came into a game, he produced. Like the guy was just that. There's a lot of depth on this Denver Broncos team, and we've been talking all night about positions of need, but like let's rewind to say 3 or 4 years ago, and positions of need were like all positions, especially quarterback. And it's like we're not in that position again. As a team, as a fan base, we're just trying to solidify these certain pieces because it's so deep and it happened so quickly under some of the craziest circumstances with that dead cap. But you were asking about the Davis Webb. He must be so spectacular behind the scenes with Bo Nix and with just the rest of the team that they could not risk having him not be a part of this team, to the point where I don't think Sean Payton was ready to give up play calling. I don't think he wanted to be the CEO. I don't think any of that was in the plans for him, but that had to happen in order to retain this guy under that roof. And that just speaks volumes about what he must be like behind the scenes and really what his potential is moving forward.
Yeah. And if there is one quote, and this also goes to him moving the play calling stuff, is he is, entering his mid 60s, right? And he's not going to be calling plays forever. And so I think that if there is one quote that has just been on my mind, just all in this process, all of this stuff percolating, if you will, with the offensive coordinator stuff with Webb, is that when Sean came out, I believe it was after the Buffalo Bills game, or was it after the Bills game, or was it after the Patriots game, where he said, "I just struggling driving in the rain." When he said that, it's one where it was just like, I wonder if between that and hanging it up, or or just that he can't call plays forever, or like he wants to make sure that he's being best used as far as a true mentor for some of these younger coaches that are on this, this team. Like, it's just a lot of stuff that has kind of come across my mind when it comes to his, struggling to drive in the rain comment. So now you get a chance to see the Davis Webb promotion, which, as we all know, that had been kind of in consideration even mid-season. Mm-hmm. And you think of like the 10+ game winning streak that they had, and yet Sean Payton is thinking of moving off of play calls. Like, it's just like, I don't know, it's just a very interesting quote.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like we all alluded to, Sean Payton wasn't going to do that unless he strongly believed in Davis Webb. I mean, Sean said that himself. So we all know that Davis Webb's going to make a big difference. And I think the whole team collectively believes in him. As far as Jeff Okudah is concerned, was he even in the league last year? I think he might have been like in Atlanta or some shit. I don't remember, but
Also,
I don't think Jeff Okuda is going to make much of an impact at this point in his career, unfortunately. That's like the definition of a draft bust right there.
Yeah.
You know, that driving in the rain comment, Cam, you were just talking about from Sean Payton. It'll be interesting to see how fast Davis Webb gets these play calls in versus how many times do we see Bo frustrated with waiting and just kind of like throwing almost I don't want to say hissy fit, but kind of like a little mini tantrum, like getting pissed that there was no time to get to the line, to make any adjustments, they have any mystery as to when they were going to snap the ball, because it was always going down to the wire. That's one of the things I'm really interested to see, is how fast the play call gets and how much time the Broncos have from breaking the huddle and once they call that play.
Oh, you know, and it's the point that, you know, Gage, you and I made too, but it's just like, it's win-win. Like it's win-win across the board. Anybody that feels like this is a win-lose or a lose-lose situation when it comes to Sean Payton giving up play calling, Sean Payton, we all know, is an arrogant type of head coach, right? But also we know that, at least from what I've noticed, is that he definitely has his arrogant moments where he comes off in pressers where he'll attack a reporter or something, but he also has very genuine moments where you can tell he's introspective and he's contemplating his answers and everything. So despite the arrogant nature, there are some very genuine moments where like he's very much like pretty genuine since his time here. So like, I will say this, like, I would not be the least bit surprised that, yeah, I say all that to where it's like, when you see him giving out the play calling of Davis Webb, he can easily take it back. That's who Sean Payton is too. Like, he can easily take it back, because Sean Payton, this had nothing to do with him being a play caller. Still, it's just a matter of just like also helping out Davis Webb. So I think it's also too where he can easily just take it back as much as he gave it to him as well.
Can you bring up the comment about the RPOs, please? Because I actually disagree with this. I think Sean Payton has a lot of RPOs in his offense, and I think that they use them quite a bit. So I don't think that's the area where this offense needs correction. And I don't think there are really any schematic areas where this offense needs correction. It's more so getting the play call in a more timely manner, not having hesitancy to call a play, because you think about that 4th and 1 call, it was the epitome of hesitancy where Peyton brings in the personnel to run some sort of quarterback sneak or some sort of fullback dive, and he hesitates on it, calls a timeout, brings in different personnel, and they call some stupid rollout play in the AFC Championship game, and it does not work. So I think that there's going to be less of that hesitancy. There's going to be less of the having to burn early timeouts, all of that stuff. And the illegal man downfield stuff, that's on the quarterback. I love Bo Nix, but he's got to get rid of the ball sometimes in these RPOs. Those are a product of the quarterback holding onto the ball too long. Offensive linemen are run blocking on those RPO plays. They're doing their job there. It's not their fault they get downfield and the quarterback didn't get rid of the ball. So that's on Bo. So I just feel like from a schematic perspective, there isn't a whole lot that needs to change. It's just when certain plays are called and not having that hesitancy about what could go wrong and just think about what might go right.
That comment, Sean, was indecisive and too cute at times. I've said that. Same term, too cute, like let's not overthink this. You need a first down, just get the freaking first down and move forward, right? We don't need a trick play on 3rd and 1. Just get the
I will say too, one of the big changes I think you might see, although I think there's a reason why for it, was I think you also see a bit of a minimalized version of the amount of screens that this offense was. You'll see screens, but I think the amount of usage that you see with screens, I think will very much be down. Now, I think there is a reason for that. And that was because the running game sucked. And that's why, and that's why there were so many screens. But the amount of times I want to pull my hair out with the screen passes.
Don't do that.
I know, because then I would go see Advanced Hair Solution again.
Yeah, don't pull hair out. We don't need more hair transplants, Cam.
I know. We don't need more hair transplants.
They don't. Yeah, their return policy is terrible. So, even with the chat cooking, we should probably wrap it up. But we're really, I'd have to, speaking for all of us, like I'm super excited for next Tuesday's show because there's going to be a ton to talk about, not only for the Broncos, but maybe some surprises around the league and hopefully some surprises on with who the Broncos bring in, and we can start talking about what kind of improvement comes from those particular signings.
So I hate to bring back but to put it on you, Glenn, because you asked us.
Mm-hmm.
You asked us, what is the prediction you think the Broncos will do?
I would love Devin Lloyd, but I don't think they're going to spend that kind of investment. But I would love for him to.
That's not a prediction though. So then, what's your prediction that you think is gonna?
All right.
Obviously, that's not in house. By the way, that's too much of a cop-out answer.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I think Kenneth Walker. I think they're going to make I think running back is going to be the
first day, second day, like
right away. It's going to be similar to when they had, and this is obviously there were defensive signings, but on the same day they got Talib, they got TJ Ward, they got DeMarcus Ware. There's going to be, I think these hits are going to come right off the bat.
That I don't know what I would do if Waddle actually came true.
I mean, I'd be down. I would totally be down.
One person said Nakobe Dean. I love Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, I'd be down for Nakobe Dean. I just think that the team is going to stay in-house at linebacker, and it pisses me off, man. It really does.
Yeah.
Jeff Bryan, perfect. Walker at New England week 1. The Broncos do come out here to Foxborough.
They do.
That would be an interesting first game of the season. I would not be surprised if the schedulers put that out right off the bat as a rematch, but this time with our quarterback.
I even wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo. I wouldn't even be the least bit upset if it's Buffalo either.
I'd be down for Buffalo.
Yeah, we're not going to be getting any cupcake Tennessee Titan opening week 1 games. Broncos are a premium team now.
We're going to be on primetime week 1. Book it.
Yeah.
We won't be the kickoff game because that's going to be Seattle and somebody. But, no, because we play Seattle and Denver. So, no, that wouldn't happen. But we are going to probably be on primetime week 1. And I expect the Broncos to be maxed out on their allotment for primetime games next year. We're going to have a lot of primetime games.
Yeah. What's the max? What is it? 5? So I think there's a 5 with the opportunity of probably 1 being flexed or 2 being flexed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then you got playoffs too, which I imagine at least one of those is going to be a primetime game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So be ready. We're going to have a lot of primetime Broncos in 2026.
We will.
Yeah. But can't thank the chat enough. I know I mentioned it earlier, but the participation is what drives this show. And we really appreciate Gage screwing up and inviting his syndicate crowd in as well. Welcome. Hopefully you enjoyed what you heard. Normally we have a 4th, but he was in no condition to join tonight. Would not have been a fun show for you. But anyway, guys, thank you so much.
Live from his bathroom.
We're seeing a lot of the back of his head. But anyway, guys, great analysis as usual from you both, and looking forward to next week. But thank you so much, everybody, again, and go Broncos.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down.